Genshin combat, team building, and account progression, especially weapons and artifacts, have completely changed with new characters, new mechanics, and a steady increase in endgame difficulty. Between the Abyss, new floors in Imaginarium Theatre, and an entirely new endgame mode in the form of Stygian, a lot has shifted. So today, we're going through the best way to progress in Genshin. For players who started recently, and even for players who are still stuck in endgame content after years of playing. We'll go in order, from basic steps to more advanced tips you can follow blindly. Starting with step 1. Because Genshin is a gacha game, the most valuable thing in the entire game is your characters, and it's extremely important to understand what each character does, what their value actually is, and how they improve your account. In general, characters fall into two big roles. First, your main DPS, characters who stay on field and deal most of your damage. Second, your supports, characters who stay off-field and provide utility, like off-field damage, buffs, and sustain. If you want to know the best characters for your account, check the videos on screen where we covered the best supports and the best DPS units in the game. And in general, supports are way more valuable than DPS, because you need more supports than DPS to form strong teams. Which brings us to step 2. Team building. As a player, your first goal should be building 2 good teams based on the characters you actually have. A team usually consists of 3 off-field units and 1 on-field DPS. And that means you're going to build way more supports than DPS, which is exactly why building strong 4-stars is so important. It's very hard to get the best premium team as a new or free-to-play player, but if your DPS is strong enough, they can still clear content with 4-star supports. For example, a DPS like Flynn's, his best team is Inefa, Columbina, and Sucrose, but you can replace Inefa with Fischl and replace Columbina with Ino, and you still get a very solid team. Yes, it will be weaker than the premium version, but it still works. But the key is to even skip units like Inefa and Columbina, you first need to build your 4-star core. And endgame content is clearly going to be designed with newer characters in mind, so it's usually recommended to pull newer units, especially newer DPS, because not only do they deal more personal damage, but the content is also more suited to them. Right now, the meta is Lunar reactions, and DPS units like Flynn's, Nefer, and Zebai are going to be more beneficial than most older DPS units, because bosses and buffs will be made around them. And most importantly, these newer DPS units are simply stronger than older DPS characters. As a starter, Flynn's and Inefa on one side, and Columbina with Zebai on the other, is one of the best 2-team setups you can aim for right now. These teams are also very simple to use, without needing hardcore rotations or constant dash cancel gameplay. And you can check the channel for multiple team building videos to understand these setups even better. We also made a complete playlist for returning players, so make sure to have a look at that. Now, after forming your teams, the next step is building them, 1 character at a time. And as I said, your main focus should always be your main DPS. That means more than 50% of your resources, your Mora, your resin, and your artifact experience should go into your 2 DPS units first, because they are the ones doing the majority of the damage. After that, your focus should shift to your sub-DPS units, in this case Inefa and Columbina, who can perform well even with decent artifacts. And then you fill the rest of the team with generic supports depending on what you already own. Now, talking about teams, there are some very important things you need to understand. There are multiple team archetypes in the game, but the 2 main ones are Hypercarry teams and reaction-heavy teams. Hypercarry teams are currently the strongest teams in the game. In fact, out of the top 7 teams right now, 6 of them are Hypercarry teams. For beginners, it is highly recommended to focus on Hypercarry teams first, because you mainly invest all your resources into making 1 character as strong as possible, while the supports can function with average builds. On the other hand, reaction-heavy teams like Hyperbloom require much more time and investment, because you need to properly build all 4 characters. That said, it is still very good to have at least 1 reaction-based team on your account, because they always work, regardless of enemy type or content. For example, teams like Skirk, our Mavwika Hypercarry teams, are insanely strong, but if you face cryo-resistant enemies for Skirk or pyro-resistant enemies for Mavwika, those teams can suddenly struggle. Reaction-heavy teams like Hyperbloom, on the other hand, almost always work. So after building one strong Hypercarry team, it is a very good idea to build one reaction-based team to make your account more flexible. Now, the next part of character building is weapons. Unlike artifacts, which you can farm endlessly, weapons are something you usually pull for and you build them using resources similar to leveling characters. So the first weapon you should always upgrade is your main DPS weapon. After that, the best long-term weapon investment for almost every account is the Favonius series. This is one of the best weapon series in the entire game, and with the rise of true hypercarry team structures, the value of Favonius has become even higher than before. If you don't know what a hypercarry team means, it's when you use all three teammates to buff one on-field DPS who deals the majority of the damage. This is very different from teams like Hyperbloom, where multiple characters contribute damage, or older Clorinde teams with double Hydro, where Yelan and Farina also deal a lot of damage. Those teams are not even close to the modern hypercarry ceiling, whether it's nod-krai DPS units or Notlon DPS units. These newer DPS characters are so strong that it becomes inefficient to add another damage dealer. Instead, you want to buff the already broken unit as much as possible. And this is exactly where Favonius becomes insanely valuable, because these weapons provide the single most important stat for making teams smooth: energy recharge. Favonius weapons generate extra particles for your entire team, which leads to faster rotations and more damage. And this matters even more in Stygian, which should be your long-term goal, because you start with 0 energy, and most teams rely on Favonius supports to get their rotations going faster. Other than the Favonius series, weapons like the Sacrificial series are also extremely strong in certain situations, and are a must-build for every account. We already made a full video on the best weapons, so make sure to check that out. Now, coming to the next step, artifacts. As mentioned earlier, your first priority should be getting a proper 4-piece set for your main DPS. After that, you need to focus on your support artifacts, because there are some artifact sets that can massively increase your team's performance, far more than you might expect. Let's start with one of the most underrated sets in the game, Instructor. This is one of the most broken artifact sets, and you don't even have to farm it. You get it for free from bosses and exploration. This set provides 160 elemental mastery, which is massive for your team, especially in Lunar reaction teams that scale heavily from EM. You should always have at least 2 full instructor sets ready. You don't even need to upgrade them, just having them is insanely valuable. This is especially good for characters like Diana, Goru, Mona, and Aino, who don't deal much personal damage and can use this set perfectly. Make sure to always run an energy recharge Sands and a crit rate circlet if you're using a Favonius weapon, so you can reliably trigger the passive. Now, let's go step by step through your farming priority. First, the Viridescent Venerer set. This is the best set for almost every Anemo character in the game, and one of the best support sets overall, providing 40% resistance shred. Try to get EM main stats for Sands, Goblet, and Circlet, since most Anemo supports can use them. After you get at least one good VV set, your next priority is the Deepwood set. This is basically the VV set for Dendro teams, and you will use it in almost every Dendro setup, so it's a must-have. After that, focus on Noblesse. You should aim to get 2 or 3 usable Noblesse sets. I strongly recommend using the Strongbox for this, because the Noblesse domain also drops a second set that is mostly useless. Then comes the Emblem set. After that, your next priority should be the Cinder City set, which is the Natlan support set. Even non-Natlan characters can use it for a 12% damage bonus. Some other important sets after this are Tenacity of the Middlelith and Song of Days Past, especially in teams where you already use Noblesse and need more buffs. If you have Farina, then the Fontaine sets, Marechaussee Hunter and Golden Troop, become insanely strong. The new nod-krai support set is also extremely good, providing elemental mastery when you activate Ascendant Gleam, making it one of the best sets for EM scaling teams. Artifact farming in Genshin can take years, so be patient. Now let's move on to some very important general tips. First, make a daily routine planner that you can follow. This should include resin usage, mora farming, artifact roots, character EXP farming, and more. You can also add mora roots and artifact roots to your daily routine to grow even faster. We already made a daily routine video, so make sure to check that out. Second, always prefer horizontal investment over vertical investment, especially if you're a new player. This means getting more characters is usually better than making one character stronger and stronger. More characters give you more teams, more options, and more flexibility in endgame content. This is different for veteran players who already have a lot of characters. For them, vertical investment, like pulling constellations, can be very good. But for most players, horizontal investment is the correct choice. I hope this video helped you understand how to progress correctly. Make sure you are subscribed. Till then!